Okay, in this segment, we're going to be on page 66 of the course handout materials, and we're going to be talking about essentially permissions. So what I'm getting at in this section, this is part 2 of your write-up for your project, is I want you to research what permits, permissions, licensing, authorization, and those type of requirements that the law may impose for your type of business. And what I'm interested in when you're doing this is to look at the research that you're actually doing as if you were in the real world. So for example, let's say I wanted to open a restaurant, and I want to be able to serve food, of course, but I also want to be able to serve perhaps beer and wine. And maybe I also want to have a video lottery game or something like that. So I'm going to need to go research what are the permissions and licenses I'm going to have, which may be at the federal level, state level, city level, or county level for that type of activity. So, as a restaurant, I'm going to have to be licensed typically through the Department of Health. For sale of alcohol, I would have to be licensed under the Oregon Liquor Control Commission or whatever licensing authority you have in your state. If I want to do lottery, it'd be through the Oregon Lottery, that kind of thing. So this is where in your write-up, I want you to tell me about your type of business, and then I want you to think through and research what type of approvals you would have to start your business. So let's just look at some of the general ones that you can look into. This is not a comprehensive list, and this will highly depend on the type of business that you're doing. Be it a restaurant or an electrician or whatever the case may be. So to begin with, let's talk about a general business license. General business license. So what we're referring to there is a license that may be required by a county, a city, or a state just to do business. Regardless of the type of business activity, you have to have a license, perhaps with some exceptions, but usually this will apply to any type of business activity that's open to the public. It may not apply, like you're selling stuff on eBay or something, but for the most part, this was going to apply for pretty much any type of business activity. Now in Oregon, typically this will be based upon the city where your business may be located or the county. So this is something I want you to talk about in your write-up. Just kind of make up where you're going to be located. Perhaps you're going to be in downtown Portland or in Gresham or in Salem or Medford or Monmouth, Oregon, whatever. And so I want you to research to see if your location requires a business license of some type. Now I've given you some examples here. So this is the city of Portland. They do require a business license there, which is also tied into their tax structure because they do tax business activity based upon that license. I think I have in the book some examples here. So the next one is Oregon City. And I just printed this off their webpage. So who needs a business license under Oregon City law? All businesses conducting business inside the city limit of Oregon City must have a business license. And it goes on to tell you what you need to do to be able to get those licenses and the fees involved. And so in this case, it will depend on the number of employees, and that will depend if you're inside or outside city limits. Now I'm not going to go through all these, the ideas. I want you to research these on your own to be able to look up what type of license activity you may need. And again, in your write-up, I want you to tell me where you went. I Googled City of Oregon City to determine business license, and yes, they do need one. If you want to go ahead and put the form together and attach that into your appendix, I don't need 100 pages, like the first page or something's fine, and that type of thing. Now you may find that the city where you're going to locate does not actually have a business license requirement. Like Monmouth currently does not have one. And so if that's the case, I want you to tell me that as well. You research City of Monmouth and they don't require a general business license, and that's fine. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. just like if you were in the real world researching this on your own. And then I give you some additional examples here. I think I have Gresham in here. So here's the Oregon City application. You know, if you wanted to fill that out and attach it as an appendix to your write-up. Here I include the city of Gresham, which requires a business license, etc. Okay, so that's sort of the first place where you're going to do research is, do you just need this general license to begin with? Number two, professional license. So a professional license refers to service industries that are regulated by state law or perhaps federal law. So I'm talking about doctors, dentists, lawyers, CPAs, real estate agents, therapists, other type of licensed professionals. And typically you will have to take a test, apply for your license. Like as a lawyer, I had to take the Oregon State Bar exam along with the federal exam. And the idea is, multi-state exam, and the idea is to be licensed, you have to pass these exams and apply to the bar, pay your dues, they do a background check, all that kind of thing. Same thing with a dentist or a doctor, you gotta prove you have the education, and take board tests to become licensed to practice medicine or dentistry. So if you're gonna be in a licensed professional activity, again, this is something you can do as part of your write-up. Maybe you're gonna be a CPA firm or insurance company, broker, so, or a real estate agent. So tell me what steps you have to go through to get your license, what type of insurance requirements you may have, what type of fees are involved, any testing that may be involved, and that kind of thing. And again, you can write that up under part 2 of your assignment, and that will, you know, for professional licensing. Now, specific trade licensing is the next area. And what I'm referring to there are specific type of business activities that will have a government agency that regulates those type of businesses. So here we have the CCB, for example, the Construction Contractors Board. They regulate building and commercial and residential and other type landscaping and other type of building activities. And you have to be licensed for that type of activity. You got to pay take a test, pay your fees, and have some insurance requirements. And so, if you're going to be a builder or a contractor, you can tell me, you know, what type of licensing you're going to apply for, what the steps for that process are. You know, if you want to fill out a few of the forms, that's fine too. Again, I don't need a 100-page application. The first couple pages is fine. For me, when I'm grading, I'm mostly looking for what steps did you take like you were in the real world? What did you learn about? What did you find as part of your research? Landscaping, restaurant, health department, food server, Oregon Liquor Control Commission if you're going to sell alcohol, lottery division if you're going to have video poker or whatever, beautician, hair cutting, you have to be licensed, pesticide or herbicide applicators for forestry and agriculture and other commercial activities, you have to be licensed to do that. Farm forest labor, I have a number of clients that provide labor for the vineyard industry to do pruning and planting, and in the forestry industry, do planting of trees, trimming, Christmas trees, that kind of thing. And those contractors have to be licensed under the Bureau of Labor and Industries, BOLI. So pretty much nowadays, just about every type of business has some regulatory agency involved, and that's something I want you to research. It may be a federal, state, or both. There may even be a county or a city agency involved, like the building department or something like that. All right, next issue is zoning. Zoning refers to laws that basically will tell you what activities can occur on a certain parcel of land. And Oregon is a zoning state. Not all states are, but most of them are in some respect or the other. But here in Oregon, we have basically the whole state is broken down into various zones. And these zones are either at a city level or a county level. And the idea is you have different types of land. Maybe it's farmland that's zoned EFU, which is exclusive farm use, or perhaps it's farm forestry, where the only type of activity can be farming or forest activities and other certain permitted activities. In a city, you have various different zones. It may be commercial retail, commercial office, industrial, public service, like I'm here at Western right now, and we're zoned public service for the university. So other type of zoning activities. So again, this is very important because you want to make sure that before you buy a piece of property or that you lease a piece of property, that the location is zoned properly for the type of business activity that you want to do. So I'm just going to show you the city of Monmouth here, their zoning code and their zoning map, to give you an idea of what it looks like. Okay, so this is the city of Monmouth zoning map. And I just want to show you here, I'm going to blow this up so you can see a little better. Hold on just a moment. So here you can see, essentially they're taking the whole city and they have broken down the whole city by tax lot into various different zones. So we have Main Street District, low density residential, medium density residential, high density residential. So low density would be like single family houses, perhaps duplexes. Excuse me. Medium density would be a mix. High density would be like apartment, complexes. Then we have commercial highway, commercial office, commercial retail, transitional between zones, public service, general industrial, industrial park, light industrial, on down the line. So they have a number of these different types of zones. Each tax lot, each property will have its specific zone. And you need something you want to look up to determine if the property that you're going to buy or lease allows for whatever you're going to do in that zone. So let's say, for example, I'm a lawyer, and let's say I want to open a law office. So I want to go to a location that allows office activity. So let's say I'm looking at a property that is zoned, right here, for example, that's zoned commercial office, okay? So, let me just zoom out for a minute so you can see the whole map. So again, you see this is the official zoning map, so they have the whole city broken down into all these various zones. So I'm looking right here to see, okay, this is actually where my office is, right there. So I'm looking to see, okay, is that okay for me to put a law office? It's zoned commercial office. So I'm going to go look at the zoning code, which is available on the city website, and it's going to tell you what type of activities are available. So here I have the City of Monmouth zoning ordinance for commercial office zone. And then it's going to tell me down below what type of activities are permissible automatically and what type of activities may be possible if I get special permission. So first we have permitted use. So right here, permitted uses. So within any commercial office zone, no structure shall be used, constructed, etc., for any purpose except the following. So this is a list of the type of activities that I can do without additional permission. So an advertising agency, a barber shop, a beauty shop, childcare, employment agency, laundry. Let's keep going down here. If I keep going, eventually I get to professional offices, attorney or lawyer's office, medical or dental office, bank, accounting, optician, real estate, etc. So I've just looked and I found that, okay, the property that I want to buy is zoned commercial office. I want to put an attorney's office there, and it's within a permitted use. So that's really all the approval I need. I don't need to go ask for additional approval for that type of activity. Now, I may need to get approval if I'm doing any remodeling or other type of activity. That's a different issue, okay? Now, what if I look and I find out, okay, maybe I want to do some other type of activity that's kind of office-y, but it doesn't really fall into any of those very specific categories. Well, that might be possible through what's called a conditional use. So a conditional use is essentially permission that is granted for a specific type of activity that's not expressly authorized, but it's similar to those type of activities in enough way that special permission may be granted. You have to apply to the zoning authority, either at the city level or county level if you're outside city limits. And then they have public hearings, and there's a whole process that's very involved to be able to get that. And they may require conditions such as you may have to put in a sidewalk or some other type of conditions to allow that type of activity, or parking lots or whatever, depending on the type of activity. They may limit office hours or do whatever. So that's on a case-by-case basis for the most part. So essentially, for your write-up again, you can look at a specific property, look to see if you have automatic permitted use, or if not, perhaps you fall within one of the conditional uses. If not, you're not going to be able to do your business there, and you'll have to relocate or find some other place to go that does allow that type of activity. Okay. And then finally, I need to switch back to my page here. Down here at the bottom, permits, building, electrical permits, plumbing permits, and then we have wetlands and the Clean Water Act. These are all sort of generalized additional potential permissions that you would have to have. Most of these relate to if you're going to be doing building or remodeling of the property to accommodate your type of business. And so, for example, if you're going to build a new building, perhaps you're going to have to go do a wetlands study to determine if there's wetlands. If there's wetlands, you may not be able to build there. If you're going to be doing remodeling, have to do a site design, engineering, and potentially architectural studies to get permits. So those are all things that are specific to building or remodeling or use of the actual property above and beyond the zoning. And that's typically done through the building department, community development department it's sometimes called. And as part of your research in the real world, you would want to go talk to the zoning officer, the community development officer. They go by different names. And they're usually pretty open and very helpful to, you tell them, hey, this is what I want to do. And they'll tell you if that's permitted or not and what steps you've got to go through. Especially here in Monmouth Independence, we have really good city staff in both cities to help people work their way through that. Same thing with the county at Polk County. And that's pretty much true everywhere. It is a bit of, there's red tape and hoops you got to jump through. But that's usually the best place to start is right at the ground level and talk to those development officers to help give you a push in the right direction. And then finally, I have here licenseinfo.oregon.gov. That's licenseinfo.oregon.gov. This is a website that the state of Oregon has developed that basically is intended to sort of be a one-stop place to help businesses look up the type of licenses that they may need. And the idea is, instead of having to go to all these different agencies, you can go to one place and type in the type of business, activity, restaurant, and it's going to tell you what kind of licenses or permissions that you need from a state level. And it's a great idea. It works pretty well. I will tell you it is not comprehensive, but for purposes of your research, it's a great place to start. And that will they'll point you to the different agencies that may be involved in that type of activity. Again, it's not absolutely comprehensive. That would be virtually almost impossible. But you may have, again, federal requirements that they don't talk about at the state level. And so it's a good place to start. Of course, Google is also your friend, or whatever search engine you use. If you're going to do whatever type of business activity, maybe I'm going to operate a cattle ranch. I type in cattle ranching permit requirements and do all that kind of thing. So this is for part 2 of your write-up for the term. And I basically want you to go through and think through what type of permits and activities, or what type of activities, and then research city, state, federal type of requirements. And you may not hit them all, and that's okay. And then tell me, where you looked, what websites you went to. If you want to fill out the forms and attach them as part of the appendix to your write-up, that's great. Again, I don't need a 100-page form, just a few pages is fine. And also, I don't want all your real-world information. I don't want your date of birth or your address or social security number. Just make that up, and so on. So that will conclude this segment.